Hey everybody, Shane here, Shoebox Legends. Thanks for joining me today for a video response episode here on the channel. This one goes out to Hugo, my buddy over at Signs of the Pastime. Awesome guy, awesome channel, just an amazing passion for baseball history and also for baseball cards. And Hugo's channel is like the perfect intersection to me of those two passions. And he creates his content in such a polished, professional way that it's just so enjoyable to consume. Can't say enough good things about Hugo. If for some reason you are watching this and you're unfamiliar with Hugo and you haven't been by his channel, I would implore you to abandon this video, use the link below and just go check out Signs of the Pastime and subscribe. You will not be disappointed and you will probably learn something new anytime you watch a video. Just can't say enough good things about it. So anyway, Hugo put out a call for any of us who are interested to show off our favorite pickup for our collections of the year 2023. But he did say we could take some liberties, so I'm going to drag it out a little bit like I have a habit of doing, and I'm going to do a top 5 countdown. Now, as any collector knows, this could change, daily, but this is where I'm at right now. This is what I feel like, at the end of December or mid-December here as the year winds down. None of the 3 cards in the background are in the top 5, but they are related to cards we'll see, and I wanted to give you something to look at while I was gabbing through the intro. So without further ado, let's get to card number 5. It is the 1888 Scraps Tobacco James Tip O'Neill card. Check that out. Mind-blowing to me. Never in a million years did I think I would have a card this old in my baseball card collection. This is 135 years old, if my fuzzy math is right. And that's incredible to me. I found this because I was actually looking for an O'Neill card specifically. Got on a kick this past year of, cards that represent big seasons for players. And he had hit a Triple Crown the year prior, I think it was, 1887. And that's what led me to discover this card. Never thought I'd be able to afford anything like this, but it's actually a very, very reasonable price that this ended at. And I'm just honored and kind of a little stunned even months later to actually have this card in my collection. So number 5, James O'Neill on the 1888 Scraps Tobacco set. Just awesome. Early die cut baseball card there. Number 4, next up, this is a 1950s card from the golden era of baseball cards. It's the only 1950s baseball card to make the countdown. A player that I really admire and that I've been picking up more cards of over the last maybe 2 to 3 years specifically. And I finally landed this monster, at least as far as collecting this player goes, an essential card, the 1951 Bowman Monty Irvin rookie card is my number 4. To me, this is like, I collect for fun. I do spend a decent amount of money on the hobby. And I want to make sure that that money hopefully is going into things that will retain some value in the future, but it's not the primary reason that I collect. However, that being said, this is a card to me that I don't really talk about this angle often, but a card to me that I think should be more expensive or valuable than it is. When you consider what an important player Monty Irvin was in baseball history, being, kind of one of those breakthrough players like a Jackie Robinson or Larry Doby that bridged, from the Negro Leagues to Major League Baseball. And this is his rookie card, and it's just not that expensive. I know expense is a relative term for every collector, but I mean, you can get decent looking versions of this card if you're not too picky for cheap enough coin that they don't even qualify for eBay authentication. So we're talking, a couple $100. And when you look at what other players like of this era and of similar importance, like a Jackie Robinson and a Larry Doby, guys like that, what their rookie cards go for, a couple $100 for this Monty Irvin is insane to me. And, Willie Mays has a card in this set, so does Mickey Mantle. And when you look at what those guys sell for from this exact same release, and I'm not claiming that Monty Irvin is Willie Mays or Mickey Mantle, don't get me wrong. But I mean, this guy, he was a multiple-time All-Star in the Negro Leagues and won multiple batting titles in the Negro Leagues as well. I think 3 batting titles, if I remember. And in addition to that, not only was he an All-Star in the Negro Leagues, but he was an All-Star in Major League Baseball So he bridged that gap. And he won a World Series championship in Major League Baseball in 1954. But prior to that, he won a Negro League World Series as well. So this is a guy that had a tremendous amount of success in both leagues, bridged that gap. He was also a World War II veteran who was deployed overseas in Europe during the conflict. There's just so much to admire about this guy, and I can't believe that his rookie card is, you know, as cheap as it is relative to other players of this era and of his ilk. And I'm really glad that I snatched one up now. I don't know if that will ever change and this card will be more valuable in the future, but regardless of monetary value, I certainly don't want to focus the conversation on that because that's really not the point. And it's not why this card is where it is in the countdown. This card is where it is in the countdown because it's an iconic, in my mind, rookie card of a very admirable man who faced a lot of adversity in his life and was just tremendously successful. I admire his career and his life so much, and I'm honored to have that rookie card in my collection. So that's my number 4 pick, the 51 Bowman Monty Irvin. In the number 3 spot, I've got a relic card here, and I'm going to take this one out of its baggie so we can get a better look at it. And this is card, you know, this is the reason the Joe DiMaggio is up there in the background. I ended up buying the Joe DiMaggio card and submitting it for grading so that I could pair it with the card that comes in the number 4 slot. So from that same 2007 Sweet Spot Classic memorabilia set, how about the Iron Horse Lou Gehrig? And just like the DiMaggio, you know, in the background that didn't make the cut, this one just has a fantastic Yankee pinstripe going right across the relic. Again, just like kind of like the Tip O'Neill Scraps Tobacco card that kicked off the countdown. This is just another card that, like, when I really think about what it represents and I sit down and stare at it for a bit and just kind of soak it in, it blows my mind. Even now, you know, all these months after obtaining this, I got this very early on in the year, might have even been January. So I've had this card for a while, but I love it every bit now as much as I did, you know, on the day that I got it. It has not, you know, worn out its welcome at all. I still just stare at this thing with a giant grin on my face. Growing up, I was a big Cal Ripken fan. He was one of my big players. And seeing him break Gehrig's consecutive game streak was like one of the most, you know, formidable or you know, moments of my, you know, sports fandom as a kid. It's lodged in my memory forever. And I just really admired Gehrig at the time, just knowing what Ripken was doing to overcome him. And, you know, obviously his career and life is about so much more than the consecutive games played streak. But yeah, I'm not going to go on here. I'm at 8 minutes already. We have a couple more cards to get to. I think it's pretty easy to understand why this card would make anybody's list. And this is coming from someone who's generally not a big relic guy. I really don't buy modern relics at all. I just think they've kind of worn out their welcome, or they're not really what they used to be back in the early to mid 2000s, like this card. And yeah, just honored to have this. You know, maybe someday I'll be fortunate enough to own a playing era Lou Gehrig card. I would love to add one to my collection, but those cost thousands and thousands of dollars. And, you know, you can get these really nice cards that feel like kind of like a museum piece or a piece of baseball history, you know, for a small fraction of that, you know, 10%, 5% maybe of the price of what a playing era Gehrig would go for. So there we go. The Lou Gehrig relic is in spot number 3. In number 2, the runner-up is going to be a Nolan Ryan card. That's why you see the 73 Ryan in the background. A lot of you know, probably, who've watched my content before, I'm a huge fan of buyback cards. I love the concept. These are cards that were out in the wild, you know, already pack-pulled in more than one collection, or at least one collection over the years. Topps buys them back, stamps them or marks them somehow to differentiate them, and then pack issues them all over again a second time as inserts. And I found one from Nolan Ryan this past year that I've honestly wondered for years whether this card even existed or not. There's no way to know. There's no confirmed print runs on these or anything. It surfaced all of a sudden 2 or 3 months back. I've had a saved search for this card since 2015. So I waited 8 years with an eBay saved search for this card to finally appear, and I can't believe I was able to win it. It's the Nolan Ryan Jerry Koosman rookie card from 1968 Topps. but it's the 2015 Topps original buyback program version of the Nolan Ryan rookie. So this 68 Ryan was bought back by Topps, stamped with this Topps original stamp, 2015, silver stamp, and this was included in probably a hobby pack of 2015 Topps Update Baseball, most likely. I think Topps Update was the set that they had the buybacks in 2015. They may have been in flagship as well, but can you just imagine the life that this card has led? It was out in the wild from 1968, you know, in people's collections, or at least one person's collection. Then it got purchased back, put back into a factory pack, and somebody pulled it out of a pack, some collector somewhere, in the year 2015. And can you just imagine leafing through some 2015 Topps cards and then this thing, you know, spills out of the pack? It is most likely a one-of-one. It's the only one that's ever been submitted for grading. And I can tell you, as somebody who's collected buybacks very heavily and spent a lot of time learning about them, you know, there are no confirmed numbers of these out there by Topps or any other company that does buybacks for the most part. So it's really a mystery, but it is most likely the only one that exists. And for me, in my collection, given that Nolan Ryan was my favorite player growing up and that I have this love for buybacks, this is almost like a perfect card. I can't imagine I'll ever acquire too many cards that top this one. But amazingly so, and this is a good segue, I did pick one up in 2023 that I like even better than that. And it's also a Nolan Ryan card. And a bunch of my buddies probably know where this is going, or maybe you've seen this card on the channel before. From Topps Archives Signature Series, this was the 2020 release. I got the 1990 Topps Nolan Ryan autograph, 1/1. Now, most people would probably have these in a different order and maybe put the rookie card at number 1. But for me, you know, this is the number 1 card just purely because of my nostalgia and my history in the hobby. 1990 Topps was the first set that I ever opened packs of as a kid. My dad would bring us home wax packs on his ride home from work. He'd pick them up. My brothers and I would sit around the kitchen table or out on the deck if the weather was nice and just open our packs, trade cards. And this was my initial exposure, not only to baseball cards, but to the sport of baseball. There was no internet back then in the spring of 1990, or at least very limited. Nobody had it at home at that point. Cable TV options for watching baseball were limited. You know, you kind of had whatever your local library had maybe for books or some newspaper articles. And so Topps Baseball in 1990, that summer, spring and summer, that's how I learned about the game of baseball. And the reason I became a big Nolan Ryan fan is largely because he has card number 1 on the checklist, this very card, in 1990 Topps Baseball. And then not only that, but he has a 5-card subset or 4-card subset following this. So he's got cards 1 through 5 on the 90 Topps checklist. So as a 7-year-old in the spring of 1990 and summer of 90, I could easily tell that Nolan Ryan was a huge deal, even when I had yet to really learn much about his career. You know, a lot of what I learned about Nolan Ryan early on came from this, the back of this very card. Spent a lot of time staring at this when I was a kid. And so this card will kind of always and forever be like one of my favorite cards ever produced. I know there's probably not many people that would say that, but again, it's just my own nostalgia. This card is huge to me. And when this surfaced, the 1/1 autographed version of it, I was really astounded and was able to get this at a price point that really wasn't too bad either. I think cheap enough that it wouldn't qualify for eBay authentication, believe it or not. Snatched it, and it was definitely a card that was not going to be around for long because there's a lot of Nolan Ryan collectors out there. And unlike most pitchers, he actually has a very, very healthy market in the hobby with a lot of competition for his stuff. And so for me, this will likely, probably as long as I collect cards, this will remain my favorite Nolan Ryan card for all the reasons I just talked through. So there you have it, Hugo. And thank you to anyone else who stopped by. This is my #1 favorite acquisition of the year 2023. But certainly grateful to have all of the cards that we saw today, including the ones in the background. And more than that, I'm grateful for all of you, including Hugo, your friendship, your support, and your viewing of my videos, your wonderful comments. Just having a blast in this community, and really looking forward to another successful year of doing this in 2024. I have some great ideas on kind of how I'm going to form my collection or the directions I'm going to go in next year that I'll be sharing in the coming days and weeks. So for now, that's a wrap. Thanks again to Hugo. Please go visit Signs of the Pastime, and I'll be back very soon with some more sports card content. Till then, enjoy the hobby, everybody. See ya.